Hello, my name is Cressida Delaney. I had both legs broken in a car accident. My mother, a retired nurse, looked at me lying in that hospital bed and said, "You always ruin everything." Then she hurled a medical device at my face. All because I told her I couldn't come to my sister's birthday party. 30 minutes later, the police burst into the room. But that wasn't even the worst part. The real horror came after, when I found out they'd erased me from the will, said I was mentally unstable, and tried to drag me to court for defamation. Why would a family do that? Why would a mother destroy her own daughter? And what do you do when blood turns toxic? I never imagined that a birthday invitation could cost me both legs and cost me my place in this family. My eyes fluttered open to the sterile white ceiling of the emergency ward, fluorescent lights humming overhead. The sharp scent of antiseptic sliced through the air. I tried to move, but pain flared in my thighs, bone shattered. My breath came in ragged gasps. Somewhere I heard the beep of a monitor. My heart beat fast, not from fear, but confusion. How did I end up here? I am Cressida Vale. I was 34 when everything changed. I worked long shifts as a nurse in Denver, usually 12 or 14 hours, because caring for others made my isolation feel bearable. But that night, finishing a double shift, the air felt heavier than normal, the rain tapping frantic rhythms against my windshield. My body, exhausted, longed for rest. My mind, however, ticked with one unbearable thought. Tomorrow is Callista's birthday. She expects me to celebrate. Must celebrate. No excuses accepted. I remember turning the key, engine whirring, windshield wipers slicing through darkness. Raindrops like shards against glass. I was tired, but determinations from decades past kept me alert. My sister's birthday meant more than just cake. It meant image, family pride, public looks, always public. As I rounded a slick curve on Lamar Street, a truck veered into my path. I yanked the wheel. Tires screeched. The crash happened so fast, a flash of metal. I blacked out. I woke to fluorescent lights, white sheets, white gowns, the smell of rubber, cold metal. I couldn't move my legs. Pain bloomed like fire in both. 2 broken femurs, multiple fractures, immobile. The doctor's voice was distant, muffled. "You'll need surgery," he said. "Long road ahead." In that moment, I thought, I'll miss Callista's birthday. Guilt tightened inside my chest. From childhood, I learned that being absent, excused or not, meant becoming invisible. I pulled out my phone. Fingers trembling, I texted Mom, "I can't make it. I'm badly hurt in the crash. Both legs broken." Sent. I waited. Silence. Hours passed. The night was long. "No, I'm sorry. No, get well." Just my pulse, the ventilators, the cold drip of IV fluid. I tried to sleep, but fear kept the shadows alive. Morning light cut through the blinds. My door cracked open. Vera's silhouette appeared, tall and rigid. Callista behind her, dressed in crisp designer coat. No sympathy in her eyes, only irritation. Mom's voice cold. "Why are you doing this dramatic act? You always need to make someone else's celebration about you." Callista rolled her eyes, quiet, sharp. I swallowed bile. "I physically can't walk," I replied. "You told me I had to be there." Vera scoffed. "Everyone wants their picture-perfect moment, but you always choose suffering over dignity." No apology, just that tone, dismissive, endless. During their exit, I forgot how to care about decorum. Nurse Becky paused in the hallway. She asked quietly, "Does your family know how badly you're hurt?" I shook my head, choosing silence. I have learned over the years that silence is safer than confrontation. Sometime later, my phone buzzed with notifications, group chat messages flooding in, Callista's birthday photos, golden lighting, balloons, laughter. Vera's proud captions, "So blessed to have my shining star. Family first forever." But me, no messages addressed to me, no "hope you feel better," just images. Faces I used to love turned into postcards from a home I no longer felt part of. The nurse's voice broke through my grief. "Cressida, your family didn't call?" I considered answering, but I shrugged. Silence had become second nature. I closed my eyes, letting the pain wash over me like a cold wind. Snow began to fall outside the hospital window, thin, slow flakes that drifted against the glass. The monitor's beep kept time, my legs strapped in casts, unable to shift. I stared up at the ceiling and pulled up the group chat one final time, thumb hovering. Then I swiped, deleting it altogether. No more reminders, no more illusions that I mattered. Lying there, as the snow settled on the city I've known all my life, I realized something. I have been trying too hard to belong, to be enough. Maybe my value isn't in showing up for others under their terms. Maybe there is another way. A way where I decide what I deserve. That was the moment I stopped pretending. That was when I knew. Maybe I don't have the family I thought I did. Accused of something I didn't do. The officers asked if there were witnesses. Vera stared at them like they had spilled coffee on her dress. Callista flinched. I thought, yes. Nurse Becky. The hallway footage. The IV monitor falling. My curled-up wrist. Everything taped in memory. Yes, I said, voice small but steady. They won't like what I have to say. My legs throbbed. Cold crept in around me. Outside, snow sifted down, making patterns against the window. The world was quiet, except for the soft fall of snow and the distant hum of traffic. I watched that, breath shallow, because I knew, whatever came next, I couldn't let them keep warping what people believe. If this was going to be twisted, I would fight. Not with yelling or broken pleas, but with evidence, with truth. I clenched my fist beneath the blanket and waited. After a moment of tension, the officer stepped aside. If you want, we can arrange for someone to record your statement outside the room, one said. Callista's lips parted as if to reach out. Vera clenched her jaw. I looked at both of them. Pain was in my legs, yes, but it was nothing compared to the ache of being erased. The nurse closed the door gently behind her. Callista stood frozen, Vera's face flush with anger and something like regret, or maybe calculation. I lifted my eyes to the ceiling, white and cracked with pipes. I exhaled slowly. I couldn't change their minds, but maybe I'd begin to change what the world sees. Later that night, the whispers in my head repeated, "This is not just accident. This is pattern." And they've always believed I'm dramatic. I reached over to the phone on the table. I scrolled through my photo gallery. Birthday pictures, family events, me always at the edge, at the back. Then pictures of hospital shifts, me in scrubs, me helping patients, me saving others. And yet, no one saw me. I pulled up the voice memo app. My thumb hovered over record. But I hesitated. Recording felt like betrayal. And yet, I realized the only way they might never twist what happened is if someone else hears the original, someone who isn't afraid to believe me. I tapped record. The door slid open before I could hold a breath. Two officers stood just inside the doorway as Vera's voice clanged against the walls. You always find ways to ruin important things. Callista hovered behind her mother, stiff posture, arms crossed. I was still hooked to the IV, one leg elevated, the other in a brace. My tray of hospital food lay untouched on the bedside table. I wanted to say something like, I'm in traction, I physically can't show up, but my throat felt tight. Instead, I managed, I can't come, voice flat. Callista sneered, always a crisis with you. Vera's lips curled, cold. They came expecting apology, maybe performance. Not the truth. Vera stepped forward. Her heel clicked on the tile. She picked up a portable IV monitor, the kind that hangs from a wheeled pole but can be disconnected. Her knuckles white. I flinched. Mom hurled it. It missed by inches. Metal clanged against the wall. Monitors beeped. I didn't scream. Silence filled the gap. Nothing moved except my heart, hammering. Callista gasped, backing away. Vera's face was tight. No, are you okay? No concern. Just venom. Don't text me again if you're not coming, she spat, loud enough that the nurse at the nurse's station outside the open door must have heard. My insides froze. Confusion and betrayal colluded in my chest. I thought, this isn't concern. It's control. Nurse Becky rushed in. She found Vera pacing. Callista turned away, looking distressed. Becky put a gentle hand on my shoulder. Mom shouldn't have thrown that, she said, voice low. Vera glared, but couldn't find a word. Callista looked down, eyes flickering. For a moment, I considered standing up, but I couldn't. 2 broken legs make standing an insult to one's own dignity when everyone expects you to stay down. 30 minutes later, blue lights braided behind the curtains. 2 uniformed police officers entered. A cold air came with them. One officer introduced himself. Ma'am, there was a report of assault. We need you to answer some questions. I nodded, though my head felt foggy from pain meds, from shock. Vera looked indignant. Callista looked ashamed or maybe afraid. Hard to tell yet. One officer showed me a phone. Someone filed a statement. You are accused of attacking your mother. The words hit me like a punch. They reported me? I whispered. My voice wasn't loud, wasn't meant to be. But inside I burned. I refused to let them twist the story without resistance. Flashbacks surfaced. All those times I was painted dramatic for speaking truth. Times I asked that someone ask how I was during long shifts. Times I was told I was too sensitive or too needy. All trapped behind smiles, behind dismissal. All failure to speak out just because. And now this, accused of something I didn't do. The officers asked if there were witnesses. Vera stared at them like they had spilled coffee on her dress. Callista flinched. I thought, yes. Nurse Becky. The hallway footage. The IV monitor falling. My curled-up wrist. Everything taped in memory. Yes, I said, voice small but steady. They won't like what I have to say. My legs throbbed. Cold crept in around me. Outside, snow sifted down, making patterns against the window. The world was quiet, except for the soft fall of snow and the distant hum of traffic. I watched that, breath shallow, because I knew, whatever came next, I couldn't let them keep warping what people believe. If this was going to be twisted, I would fight, not with yelling or broken pleas, but with evidence, with truth. I clenched my fist beneath the blanket and waited. After a moment of tension, the officers stepped aside. If you want, we can arrange for someone to record your statement outside the room, one said. Callista's lips parted as if to reach out. Vera clenched her jaw. I looked at both of them. Pain was in my legs, yes, but it was nothing compared to the ache of being erased. The nurse closed the door gently behind her. Callista stood frozen, Vera's face flush with anger and something like regret, or maybe calculation. I lifted my eyes to the ceiling, white and cracked with pipes. I exhaled slowly. I couldn't change their minds, but maybe I'd begin to change what the world sees. Later that night, the whispers in my head repeated, "This is not just accident. This is pattern. They've always believed I'm dramatic." I reached over to the phone on the table. I scrolled through my photo gallery. Birthday pictures, family events, me always at the edge, at the back. Then pictures of hospital shifts, me in scrubs, me helping patients, me saving others. And yet, no one saw me. I pulled up the voice memo app. My thumb hovered over record, but I hesitated. Recording felt like betrayal. And yet, I realized the only way they might never twist what happened is if someone else hears the original, someone who isn't afraid to believe me. I tapped record. When the nurse slipped the tray of scrambled eggs and lukewarm coffee to me that morning, I didn't touch either. The taste of guilt was always cheaper than food when family meant performance. Outside the ward window, light crept over the mountain silhouettes, cold and pale, promising nothing more than another day of waiting. Waiting for someone who might never show. I lay there, legs wrapped in plaster, fingers tapping the bedsheet. I tried to drift off to sleep, but memories clawed at me. It wasn't just that call, just that crash. It was every slight, every time I asked for help and was told to hush, every time I saw Callista's face lifted with pride in someone else's camera and mine was cropped out. That scholarship I earned, packed for dorms, textbooks in hand, and Mom said it was too much effort. That car she bought for Callista, the month I was working 2 shifts to catch up on rent. I remember trembling when I saw her order it. She said, "You'll never drive anything pretty, Cressida. That's not your role." That line echoed now louder than the crash. I stared at the ceiling. The pain was there, yes, burning, throbbing, both legs broken. But under it all simmered something else, bitterness that finally wanted to stop pretending. I reached for the phone, thumb hovering over voice memo. I thought of telling it all, the scholarship, the car, every erased birthday. But I didn't press record, not yet. Around noon, Nurse Becky returned. She had that look in her eyes, like someone carrying 2 truths she didn't know how to reconcile. She adjusted my pillow, pulled the blanket closer around me. She said, "You've been quiet today." I nodded. Silence felt safer than another confrontation. But she sighed. "I remember the night you got that award in high school. I was there." I looked at her, surprised. "You didn't tell them?" she said. "They never asked." Her voice trembled, like maybe she wanted to tell me something more. But she didn't. She just left the room, door clicking softly behind her. By mid-afternoon, the shadows slid across the floor. I twisted my head to see the hallway. The lights flickered in the east wing. My phone lay on the bedside table, unlocked. I scrolled through old photos, Callista's graduation, family portraits, Christmas mornings. One picture, me, smiling, standing next to Dad. But in their eyes, in Vera's caption, I was support staff, just someone who helps others shine. That feeling, being useful but never central, had followed me here, even lying in broken bones. I caught a reflection of myself in the glass panel of the door, swollen face, casted legs, hospital gown pulled tight. My identity felt brittle. All those years I built myself around them, Mom's expectations, Callista's shadow. How little was I by myself? But also, how strong I needed to be, not to crumble under years of being overlooked. Evening came. A nurse wheeled me to a window overlooking the hospital parking lot. My legs could not walk, but my mind traveled back to that curve in Lamar Street, the crash, etc. The sun sank behind the hills, light bleeding red and gold, and I understood, this is my turning point. I would piece everything together. Document what they erased, what they twisted. One voice memo, one photo, one witness could change how people saw me. When Becky wheeled my dinner tray in, she placed it gently on the bedside table. "I found the texts you sent Mom," she said. She didn't respond. And Callista's stories, they posted pictures today. My stomach lurched. She captioned, "My sister's recovery is our strength," I said. Strength, like I asked for applause. I swallowed hard. Becky looked away. There was sorrow in her eyes. Later, I scrolled through the family group chat again. A friend of a distant aunt wrote, "Your sister's story is so inspiring." Then an emoji. Then nothing for me. My thumb hovered, then I typed, "I exist too," and deleted it. Good enough. Maybe soon I'd need something stronger than words. Night deepened. Outside, snow whispered against the windows. Within, I laid still, watching shadows dance across the wall, listening to the hum of machines. The ache in broken bones, yes, but a different ache. The ache of being unseen. I resolved. Tonight, I start naming witnesses, collecting the snapshots, the recordings, the missed calls. Tonight, I will not let them define truth. I picked up my phone, opened the voice memo app, thumb hovering over record, a breath held. Then I pressed. Snow drifted against the hospital window, its soft white flakes falling quietly, brushing the glass in slow motion. I watched them, clutching the edge of the bed, heart thudding, waiting for something to change. The ache in both legs was sharper this morning, bones aching, ligaments stretched. But what weighed heavier was the hush from Vera and Callista, as though my pain were just another scene in their painted family portrait. The phone beside me buzzed. "Maybe I've been documenting pain for longer than I thought," I murmured, staring at the cracked screen. Earlier, I scrolled back through years of text messages. Birthday wishes only to Callista, photos without tags, messages unanswered. Every ghost of disappointment was recorded somewhere in my phone. It was time to stop pretending those moments didn't matter. I opened a new draft in the email app. My fingers hovered, hesitated, but I began. Yesterday your IV monitor nearly hit me. I sent you texts. No response. I gathered items over the past weeks, screenshots of missed calls, the doctor's report after the crash, Nurse Becky's name, the time-stamped footage of Mom picking up the monitor. I typed the timeline, careful not to burn with anger, but cold, precise. Then I paused, added a lawyer's email in CC, and addressed both Vera and Callista. Closing line. I have recordings, don't make me use them. I sent. My heart skipped. Immediately I felt exposed, yet empowered. Hours passed. No reply. 2 missed phone calls from Vera, ignored. Callista posted something vague on social media. Some people are poison in disguise of kin. I saw it, her lips forming the words she never said to my face. I lay back against the pillow, pain meds dulling, anxiety heating beneath my skin. Is this what it feels like to be seen? To force someone to finally see? Nurse Becky popped in with lunch. She offered a sandwich, a smile that trembled. I saw the post, she said quietly. I'm sorry. I nodded, voice hoarse. Thank you for seeing me. She left before I could ask her anything else. Her eyes had hinted at something, knowledge, guilt. I held that moment like a lifeline. Later, Mom and Callista paced outside my room, their voices muffled through the wall. Someone dropped a plate. Mom cursed, Callista's sobbing. Words I caught. Inheritance. Just to keep it quiet. No one must know. I pressed my ear to the wall, the plaster cold, my breaths shallow. They planned something without me again, without asking me, without including me. Flashbacks flooded in, sharp as shards. Dad's final years. He taught me how to read legal documents, how to sign checks, how money could be a story. Then he died, and everything he taught me became invisible. I remember Mom saying, girls don't need to know legal stuff. Callista nodded. I stood behind them, silent. Afternoon light drained in. Beeping machines, footsteps. My phone buzzed, a legal talk show email, someone asking if I wanted to share my experience. For years, I'd muted notifications of family group messages. For years, I'd pushed down the truth, that I deserved respect, recognition. Now, I considered sending back a response, but I breathed in, held back. I wasn't ready to expose everything yet. Strategy. Wait for the right moment. Night came. Lights dimmed. Snow outside turned heavy, blankets dropping. I lay in the dim hallway light, nurse shadows passing. I opened the voice memo app I used before. My thumb hovered over a folder named Witnesses. Photos of Mom apologizing that were never posted. Screenshots of texts. Be careful how you push her. Videos of Callista's posts without captions about me. Each file a sting, each one a proof. I recorded a brief message. This is what I've collected. The calls not returned. The posts that praise her, then silence for me. The monitor throne. The family that says they love me, but only when I pretend nothing's broken. It's time the record is set straight. My voice cracked, though. Sadness flickered, but beneath it, an ember glowed. Clarity. My legs throbbed. Pain nosed through the clarity. But I sat up, as much as I could, reached for my laptop. I drafted another email. This one to a local journalist. I included everything. Doc reports, the recorded message, Nurse Becky's permission to share, our family group chat archives. I attached carefully labeled files. I pressed send. The journey from silence to voice felt like stepping into cold water, shocking but alive. Vera's name appeared in my sent folder. Callista's too. I closed the screen, letting the weight of what I did settle in. It was small, yet it felt immense. Snow piled outside the window. Outside my frame of pain and metal, the world went on. And by the next day, I wasn't waiting for their response anymore. I was already preparing for war. The first paper bore my name. My pulse rattled as I looked at the header. Petitioner versus Vera Indira and Callista Sable Delaney. It was cold and legal, but it was mine. I had filed notice in the Denver probate court, demanded a freeze on anything moving from Dad's name to Callista's LLC, and attached the evidence I'd spent hours curating: bank statements, email threads, title documents, and that video I recorded. By the time I hit send, pain rippled through both legs, but I rose inside. This wasn't a plea. It was a warning. Earlier that morning, the hospital room was quiet except for the soft wheeze of my oxygen line and the hum of a heater pushing warmth into frost-thin air. Snow covered the hospital parking lot, lights glinting off wet asphalt. My laptop waited on my lap tray, unopened. I had paced back and forth, trying to will myself into courage. Finally, shaking fingers, typed, "Miles Porter, Estate Attorney, Denver." In search. I'd found his firm, small, known for tough cases. I drafted a message. "I need help. I believe I am being written out of the will." Attached screenshots, brief bio, why I thought there was something unnatural in the documents. I pressed send and exhaled. I'd crossed from silent endurance into action. Miles called within hours. He spoke the kind of calm I hadn't heard from my family in years. No lectures, no platitudes about how family should be kind. Just, "You're not crazy." "Yes, I see irregularities." He walked me through probate law in Colorado. When someone dies, what happens to their estate? Who inherits? How property must be inventoried. He explained informal versus formal probate. He asked me questions I never allowed. Who has access to Dad's will? Who's made changes? What LLCs own Dad's real estate? What bank accounts are joint or designated as payable on death? I answered, voice unsteady but honest. He listened. Together, we uncovered signs. Dad's lake house deed had been transferred into Callista's business entity just 6 months after his death, without notifying me. Wills filed in the county clerk's office had older versions naming me as co-beneficiary. The new version removed me entirely. Documents filed about grantor trusts, things Dad once told me he set up for both of us, were now consolidated under her name. At one moment, I felt nauseous. Were they trying to erase me by bureaucratic trickery? "They weren't just cruel, they were strategic," Miles said over the line. I squeezed my phone, trying not to let tears betray me. The next day brought a legal filing. Miles prepared an emergency motion to freeze those transfers. I signed forms, scanned them back. Petitioner versus Vera Indira and Callista Sable Delaney, I typed, heart pounding. I reminded myself it wasn't personal bitterness fueling this. It was fairness. I leaned back in bed, legs swathed in bandages, and whispered, "This isn't revenge. This is survival." When Vera and Callista got notice of the legal complaint and motion, their reaction was almost surreal. No phone calls, no messages. But I saw Callista delete me from her social media, block my profile. Vera posted something, long, vague. "It's always the ones you help who forget their place." A twisted compliment in damning cloth. I read it alone, in the quiet room, my back propped against pillows. The snow outside grew heavier. The hospital corridors smelled of medicine and decay. I let their silence echo. During a video check-in with Miles, he told me the court will need more: a complete asset inventory, affidavit, possibly testimonies. He asked, "Do I have witnesses?" Nurse Becky said she witnessed the monitor throw. "The hospital security camera has footage. I already labeled everything." I showed him the attachments. He nodded. "You're doing more than most people in your position would ever try. Few would have kept records, gotten these docs. You're building a case that can't be ignored." His voice gave me strength. That afternoon, I asked Becky to bring me extra stationery. I scribbled letters to distant aunts and uncles, people I never expected to reach out, but who I suspected believed parts of Vera's story. I left blank spaces where I needed names, addresses. I wrote through tears. "I want you to know truth," I wrote, "because perhaps you only saw what was put in front of you." I tapped the envelope, posted them from the hospital mail drop. Night came again. Cold air pressed against the windows. My legs were numb, pain sharp, but my mind buzzed. I pulled up that Facebook post of Vera's. I screenshot, saved it in a folder marked Evidence Public. A notification lit the screen. Your hearing is scheduled within 30 days. I swallowed. I allowed myself a small flicker of pride. The courtroom, the judge, the record. Maybe I'd be heard. The room grew dim as staff dimmed lights. A hush fell. I closed my laptop and looked at my hands. Calloused, scarred from years of caring for others. I remembered why I became a nurse, to heal. Maybe now I have to heal myself. Later, lying in the hush, I drifted again to moments before the crash, voices arguing, me told that I wasn't enough, ever. But tonight, I whispered back to that version of me. You are enough. That whisper, small though it was, felt like steel in my chest. Snow piled outside. I gazed at its stillness, as though it held my reflection. Someone not powerless. The first paper filed was not the world's notice, it was my own, and it would carry weight. The silence after the email, after the legal notice, felt heavier than any shout. I lay in the hospital, sheets tucked tight, soul hollow with waiting. Around noon, my phone lit up, 47 missed notifications. My heart lurched before I even unlocked the screen. Callista had posted a video to Instagram, edited, manipulative. The voiceover said I was faking my injuries for attention. The snippet of me standing, arms raised, shouting at Mom, was cut from its context. The crash, my broken legs, absent. My side of the story erased again. My stomach roiled as comments spilled in. She's mentally unstable, one post read. She's overacting, another. Some said Callista deserved peace from toxic people. Reddit threads were already buzzing. Delaney family drama. Who's really the villain? My breaths came shallow. Humiliation was a heavy coat I couldn't take off. Yet anger simmered. I am not a story for entertainment. I am a person. Miles called. It was evening. Light outside the window turned silver and cold. He said, Cressida, I know it's horrible. We have two options, ignore or respond with facts. I steadied my voice. Let's respond. I wanted to fight with something solid. He guided me to locate the original unedited video. I had it saved under a folder I named Archive Truth. Then I recorded something I never thought I'd share. Mom, almost whispering during that hospital hallway encounter. I should have left you at the hospital. It was like hearing betrayal in her throat. Late that night, I wrote an email, not a plea, but a public statement. Miles helped me upload the original video to a whistleblower platform. The kind of site where truth isn't edited, where people check sources. I attached the audio clip. I added testimonies. Becky's, the nurse who saw the monitor fly, the CCTV timestamp from the hospital entrance, my own voice memo. I sat back, legs numb, but spirit wired. I hit send. Within minutes, posts spread. Medical staff shared the link. That girl is not lying, someone commented, a nurse from surgical ward. Hashtags began trending under the names Miles had suggested. Hashtag justice for Cressida. Hashtag family is not always love. My phone buzzed again, different this time. Notifications not of scorn, but of support. Messages from people I barely knew. Old college acquaintances. One older woman, a neighbor of my father's from before I was born, wrote, I believe you. Callista's profile picture changed. She disabled comments. Vera's Facebook page disappeared. Unpublished. It felt as if the ground shifted under their feet, as if their shields dropped. Outside the city, snow fell in thick flakes. Through the window, I saw headlights of cars sliding through white roads, lights shimmering. I closed the screen. I allowed myself to sleep. For the first time since the crash, I slept through the night without nightmares. My dreams were quieter, memories of tending patients, laughter again, something soft that felt like peace. Morning came with pale sunlight filtering through hospital drapes. I woke with the throb in my legs, but also a strange calm. I realized I wouldn't always win. But today, I had won a small truth. Miles video called me. He was calm, relief visible. They're rethinking their strategy, he said. The public pressure is real. People see the damage, the lies. I nodded, though I could barely sit up. They shape the narrative until someone tells it truthfully, I whispered. That's what we did. He paused. Yes, and they can't unread what's out now. I looked around the room, the IV drip, the folded hospital gown, the windowsill thick with frost. I thought about how many times I let moments go, swallowed words, stood aside. Not anymore. I reached for my notebook, wrote in the margin, "Truth is stronger than silence." I taped photos, calls, video file names. I organized evidence, not for vengeance, but so no one could say I didn't try to stop them from rewriting my story. That afternoon, I asked Nurse Becky to bring me the original hospital logbook entry from the day of the crash. She hesitated. Hospital policy said it was archived, but she came back with it. My name, the time, the attending physician signed. I read it out loud to myself. Every scribble mattered. Every official signature that said I existed as patient, not spectacle. Evening came, harsher now. Snow piled. Outside, traffic slowed. Inside, notifications flickered with stories. Someone posted about, "Where was the concern before it was viral?" Another said, "Families hide their rot beneath perfect holiday posts." I let it wash over me. I no longer needed everyone's belief. One or two was enough. Watching the reactions, seeing some switch from defense of Callista to embarrassment, I knew this would ripple. When the lights dimmed in my room, I lay in bed, exhaustion finally tugging. I closed my eyes, my body aching, but my heart lighter. I had made visible what they tried to keep hidden. I had called bullshit on their version of family. I drifted, half asleep, hearing snow hush the world. And in that quiet, as my breath evened, I believed, even if they tried to rebuild the walls, the cracks are where the light comes in. The previous night's calm shattered before dawn. Dawn came as cold light bleeding through blinds, illuminating my hospital room like truth being forced into a confession. I heard the phone buzz when I landed awake, heart skipping. Vera and Callista had filed a defamation lawsuit, official papers delivered by courier, something about emotional distress and damage to public image. The first blow came not with words, but with ink and seal. I sat upright, struggling against the pain in both legs, brain spinning. The sheets were scratchy, sweat damp on my forehead. Outside, snow blurred headlights through the window. I turned my phone, reading the headline on a local tabloid. "Daughter turns on family. Legal feud sparks drama." I swallowed hard. They had turned my truth into scandal. And what they made public, I'd have to prove was a lie. Miles called as soon as I saw the headline. His voice was still calm, but sharp, like a scalpel. "They filed against us," he said. "Defamation. We expected this. They want to stop you." I clenched the phone. "They want to silence me." He paused, then, "We'll fight this. With all the evidence we already have, and more." Throughout the morning, I reviewed the list of what I could produce. Medical records, the security footage, Nurse Becky's witness account, the video of Vera throwing the monitor, the audio clip of Vera saying, "I should have left you at the hospital." I mentally plotted the timeline. Crash, hospital, posts, the lawsuit. Every timestamp mattered. I annotated them in my notebook, lines connecting one fact to the next, like a map I built so no one could wander through and say I got lost. Courtroom strategy with Miles took shape. I'd wear the same hospital gown into the court, if necessary, to show where I was both physically and metaphorically. My legs might be broken, but my backbone was not. When they said emotional damage, I would respond, "What about the emotional damage of being erased?" When they asked where I was when they needed me, I'd show I was there, in scrubs, in tears, behind the scenes, always doing the work no one saw. Minutes felt long. My phone lit up. "Can't believe she went public. She must be unstable. Family secrets should stay private." Those comments stung. Callista posted a video clip of me yelling, amplified, without context. Vera shared an image of Dad and lips sealed, captioned, "Some love hurts so deep you can't even see the scars," as though she were the patient, not me. Sickening. Then, in mid-afternoon, the day shifted. A judge agreed to a hearing. The judge signed the motion to admit certain evidence. Security footage from hospital cameras showing the device thrown at me was allowed. Nurse Becky's testimony was accepted. My lawyer's voice in my head told me, "They wanted a stage, let's give them one." The courtroom was packed later when the hearing was live-streamed online. I arrived in a wheelchair, wrapped in blankets, legs fragile. Journalists from local TV, cameras from legal blogs, family friends. Callista's face was a mask of grief. Vera appeared wounded, righteous. The audience saw me as someone who'd been broken, but also someone still standing. When my turn came, I rose as much as I could, using the strength in my chest more than my legs. The video of the monitor throwing was shown. The raw audio of Vera in the hallway, calling me dramatic, saying she should have left me. The security camera that caught her hand in mid-flight. Then Nurse Becky was sworn in. She spoke clearly. She saw the incident. She heard the words. She saw the posts. She verified the timeline. Callista cried, voice breaking. "I only wanted both my girls to be happy," she said. Her tears looked practiced. Vera's voice cracked when she stood. "You always twist my love into cruelty." But under that lip, I heard calculation. Hurt, but calculation. When everything was laid bare, the judge leaned forward. Papers rustled, evidence tabbed. Then came the ruling. Vera and Callista's defamation case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning they cannot refile. It was final. And my documents were valid. The public record was on my side. I exhaled stones I didn't know I was holding. Outside the courtroom afterward, I heard whispers. They tried to bury her, but she had receipts. Social media shifted. Old supporters of Callista sent messages of apology, confusion, shock. Some of her influencer brand deals were pulled, sponsors withdrew quietly. Vera's phone rang constantly, but no public statement yet. Callista's accounts were silent. No posts, no captions, as though the air had introduced something they couldn't mask. Miles stayed by my side. He waited as I climbed the courthouse steps, legs still weak, body still healing, but eyes blazing. "You did this," he said. "You told the truth." I nodded, though tears threatened. Pain shot up, but I ignored it. I lifted my head. My voice, when it came, was soft. "I want people to see me, not what they said of me." When night fell, the snow began again, thicker now. I lay in bed back at the hospital, drained but not defeated. The floodlights outside cast long, pale shadows. I thought about what I lost: trust, connection, maybe even family illusions. But also what I gained: acknowledgement, record, boundaries. The wound remained. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal easily. But justice came louder than silence. I drifted into an exhausted sleep, dreams tempered by hope. Even when justice came, the wound didn't close, and I wasn't done severing ties. When I got the message that morning, I knew it was their last pull. Vera and Callista requested a settlement meeting, neutral ground, legal counsel present, neutral in words, but I felt the trap. I spent the night replaying every moment that led here. The snow outside the hospital had frozen into thick crusts, windows iced over. My legs were stiff, but my resolve sharper than cold steel. I left the ward just before sunrise, wheelchair pushing through empty corridors. Becky wheeled me in silence, her hand on the handle firm. The hospital hallway lights flickered, echoing with memory. Every time I was dismissed, overlooked, told to stay in the background. Now I rolled toward this meeting, feeling all of that behind me, not as weight to carry, but fuel. We met at an office downtown, a modest law office with clean lines, soft chairs. Vera arrived first, wearing her Sunday face, composed, polite, Callista behind her, expression unreadable. Miles sat beside me. I felt small in my hospital gown, the dress code irrelevant but symbolic. I'm still broken. They didn't offer a handshake. Vera spoke first. "Cressida, you can end this. Just say you lied, retract the accusations, and we'll make it all go away." Her voice was silk with thorns. I leaned forward, chest pressed against my blanket. I slid across a thick file to her, bound documents of evidence. The medical reports, emails, photos, transcripts. Layman's printouts. Here, I said. Every time you erased me, every time you hoped no one would see. My hands trembled. I placed a second document, a formal letter stating my intention to permanently remove myself from the family trust and sever all financial ties. This, I said quietly, isn't just about money. This is about me reclaiming who I am. Callista scoffed. You'll regret this, she spat. Her words were sharper than the metal braces on my legs. Vera bit her lip, eyes cold, defeated but unrepentant. For a moment, I saw past their performance. Hurt, maybe, but more shame than they'd ever show. Then I responded, maybe, but I'll regret staying silent more. They sat back, uneasy. Their faces shifted, surprise, anger, confusion. I felt both sorrow and triumph. This was the tipping point. Not begging for their permission, but withdrawing my consent to be controlled. Flashbacks hit in fragments. Childhood birthdays where I sat far from the cake, invisible in photos. Teenage punishments for being too loud or asking too much. Seeing Callista celebrated in corners I couldn't access. I remembered asking, once, under Dad's roof, to be included in business discussions. Vera said, girls don't need to know legal stuff. Callista grinned. I complied. Painful. Now, leaving the office, I felt those moments sketched into the air, the room heavy with their weight, but I wasn't carrying them for them anymore. Outside, snow carpeted the sidewalks. I wheeled myself toward the entrance. Miles assisted, steadying me beside the car. I pulled out my phone. One by one, I deleted Vera and Callista's numbers. No calls, no goodbyes. Their contact erased. A small tear slid down my cheek, silent, but my spine was upright, shoulders squared. When they called, I didn't answer. I watched the snow settle on the city as I rode away. In that drive, wrapped in silence, I felt the wind through cracked glass of memories. The way Callista used my scholarships as a story without me. Vera posting photos of Dad with captions that exalted Callista, buried me in the background. I felt all those betrayals rise. I returned finally to the hospital late afternoon. I asked Becky for help standing, slowly, carefully. I hobbled with crutches, hands shaking. Each step was a triumph. Each breath, a decision. I choose my freedom. That evening, I packed small things. Photos I want to keep, my journal, a sweater Dad gave me. Not packing for a life gone, but for one I'm building. I rolled out of the ward. Nurses nodded quietly. I passed the window overlooking the parking lot. Snow-crusted cars, orange streetlights. The world looked clean, empty, waiting. Inside, home, or what counts as home now, I placed the evidence files in a box by my bed. I wrote in my journal, they taught me family means control. I'm unlearning that. I lit a candle, not because I need ritual, but because I want warmth. Shadows lifted off the walls. Night came again. The house was quiet except for creaks and the snow tapping windows. I sat at the edge of my bed, legs in casts, heart lighter than it's been. I thought, letting them go doesn't erase the past. But this choice, this boundary, it means I belong first to myself. I belong to my truth. They told me I'd be shamed. I knew I would. But I also knew shame fades when truth is clear. I closed my eyes, letting tears come, not of defeat, but of release. And though I walked away free, some wounds don't bleed. They echo. The city felt different in the early morning hours. My apartment was quiet, sunlight slipping through sheer curtains. No blaring notifications, no legal notices. Just silence, but not the kind that wounds, the kind that heals. I sat on the narrow wooden kitchen floor, a plain cup of coffee in hand. Steam rose, warming the space. For the first time in months, I made myself breakfast. Scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast. Without feeling guilty, without wondering who I was cooking for, or if someone would even notice. The pans clinked lightly. Birds outside the window chirped faintly, hopeful. I closed my eyes and let this moment fill me. I am here. I belong to me. Days after being discharged from hospital rounds, I started physical therapy. I pushed open the door of the clinic in Denver. White walls, gentle light, therapists greeting with nods of encouragement. I used a cane. I learned how to shift weight, to stand without fear, to walk steps that used to feel impossible. My legs trembled with each movement. There were tears, frustration. Sometimes I wondered, what if they had just cared? What if Vera had just asked, "Are you okay?" instead of pushing me to appear in pictures? But I didn't linger in that question. I reminded myself, I'm building a future, not living in old errors. One afternoon, after a grueling session, I rested in a quiet corner of the clinic. My cane leaned by my side. I watched other patients, some recovering from surgery, some learning to walk again, their faces earnest, exhausted. There was dignity in their struggle. It made me feel less alone. I realized healing isn't just physical. It's admitting you were wronged, naming it, letting the shame unravel so it doesn't control you. Then, one day, I received a letter in the mail. From Vera. No apology. Just formal pen strokes. "We did our best. You never appreciated it." The envelope weighed nothing in my hand. I opened it once. Eyes blurred. I read it, folded it, then carried it out to the small fireplace in the living room. I watched the paper curl in flame. Smoke rose. The words "best" and "appreciated" hissed as they burned. I didn't cry. I stood calm. My heart felt still. I didn't need more from her. Burning that letter was my way of closing a door that was never going to open properly. A week later, my phone buzzed. Professor Elaine from my old college called. I hadn't heard from her in years. She said she saw the legal proceedings, the live stream. She said, "Cressida, I've always known your integrity. If you want, there's a teaching assistant spot open next semester." I paused, spoon half lifted to my lips, teaching again. It had always been in me. Saying yes now felt like breathing. I told her, "I'll do it." Not because I needed recognition, but because I want to matter on my own terms. Evening came. I walked along a quiet park trail near my apartment. The snow had melted in patches. Mud squished beneath my boots. I used my cane. Each step required conscious effort. Tears came, not from grief, but from relief. The sky overhead was pale blue, streaked with pink clouds. Other walkers passed me, warm scarves, loyal dogs. I passed a bench where I used to sit, waiting for calls that never came. I didn't sit, I kept walking. I carried memories in my bones. Times I felt seen only when I served others. Times I merged into shade so someone else would shine. Times I swallowed anger so as not to upset the peace. Those echoes lingered, but they were softer now, less sharp. I thought, some families break us. Some lies break louder than bones. And I acknowledged, yes, mine did. Yet, when we choose ourselves, we're not broken, we're free. At home, I spread out the evidence files on a small table. I closed my eyes and remembered the first time I sent that email. The monitor throne, the lawsuit, the courtroom, the final meeting. Each moment like a stitch in the quilt I was piecing for myself. I don't expect all wounds to vanish. Some scars are part of what makes us human, but they don't have to define our worth. Later, I stood before the mirror in my bedroom. Reflection. Swollen feet, casts removed, scars subtle, shoulders back, eyes strong. I touched the scar above my knee, a little gasp of pain, but held myself there. I told myself out loud, I deserve better. I value who I am. The first time I said it without shame. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need anyone to see me to believe I mattered. Sometimes the people who were supposed to protect you are the ones who cause the deepest wounds. But healing isn't about getting an apology. It's about choosing yourself, even when no one else does. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your peace? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that reveal what's hidden behind closed doors.